Board game rulebooks do not count as relaxing vacation reading material, so just sit back, take it easy, and tear that rulebook to shreds, and I'll take it from here. You just enjoy your island getaway. I'm Ryan from How I Roll, and in this Rip Up the Rules, I'm going to teach you how to set up and play Peninsula. Peninsula is designed by Galen Goodwick and Juma Al-Juju and published by Karma Games, who helped sponsor this video. A game lasts about 30 minutes, and due to the nature of this game, there's really no limit to how many players could participate, but it's typically a game for 1 to 4 players. I actually did a review of this game as well, so you can check it out here. Anyways, on my Peninsula, there's always room at the table for you, so come grab a seat and let's dive in. Welcome to your beautiful island, where the Queen has summoned you to compete as one of the greatest landscape architects in the realm. You'll draft icon cards, draw features onto your personal map, move your architect around using infrastructure you create, complete missions, unlock landmarks, and score points, all in the name of creating the perfect island. Think you've got what it takes to win the Queen's favor in 24 tight rounds? Let's find out. Here's how you set up the game. Begin by giving each player one of these map sheets, along with a pencil, an eraser, and one of these architect discs. These maps are two-sided, labeled M1 and M2 in the top left corner. Everyone needs to use the same side in a game, and for the first game, we recommend using M1. Shuffle the icon card deck and place it on the table face down. Draw 5 of them and place them in a row face up. These icon cards are the heart of the game, and they fuel your decisions. The various icons are distributed equally throughout this deck, so removing those 5 cards creates a bit of variation from game to game and allows players to see which icons they might be seeing more or less of in a game. Place the 6 landmark hex cards in a row, then shuffle the landmark bonus cards and pair one with each landmark card. Remove the remaining bonus cards from the game. Next, shuffle the mission cards and randomly reveal 6 cards, placing them above the landmark cards. These each have a letter on them and should be arranged in alphabetical order. Remove the remaining mission cards from the game. A quick note about these landmark and mission cards. If you'd like things to be a bit simpler, perhaps for your first game or two, you can actually remove the mission and/or the landmark cards and simply play without. Or as a bit of a middle ground option, you can specifically choose the landmark bonuses numbered 1 to 6 and mission cards A through F. Feel free to mix and match and tweak these options however suits you best. Each player should now choose and write a name for their island at the top of their map. As well, everyone needs to write down the mission card letters in the top row of these compasses and also their matching victory point values below. Then cross off any of these Lifesaver icons that are listed under a higher player count than you're playing with. So for this 3-player setup, it would look like this. Then secretly choose a starting hex and place your architect disc there. You just can't pick one of these 3 harbor spaces or any of these 6 landmark spaces. Finally, place these player aids nearby and reveal 2 icon cards from the deck and place them face up. And that's the setup. Randomly choose a starting player, and it's time to get rolling. A game of Peninsula is played over successive rounds where the active player will draft a card and all players will mark features on their maps. After 24 rounds, there will only be 1 icon card left on the table and the game will end. At this moment, players will add up their scores based on what they've accomplished on their island to see who wins. Each round consists of 3 simple phases: the drafting phase, the action phase, and the administration phase. And these handy player aid sheets do a great job of reminding you of everything I'm about to explain, so make good use of them. Now let me break down each of these phases, starting with the drafting phase. The active player chooses one of the 2 face-up icon cards and places it in front of themselves with either of the 2 icons pointed toward them. Whichever of these 2 icons the active player points toward themselves is the icon they'll utilize during the action phase, and the other icon pointing away from them is the icon that everyone else has to use. So this is your chance to be greedy. And with that covered, let's get into the heart of the game, the action phase. The action phase happens simultaneously, with the active player using the icon pointing toward them and all other players using this icon. There are 3 options a player has for using their icon, which is their main action for the round, and you can also use a number of free actions before or after this. The first and most common option is to draw it on your map, so let's break that down now. When drawing an icon, you can choose any land space that is directly next to your architect that doesn't already have an icon in it and draw your icon. So in this situation, I could place my icon here, here, or here, but not here or here because there are already icons there, and not here because you can't draw on the water. There are a few specific rules for the various 6 icons. When drawing a village, boat, tunnel, or forest, only draw the outline and don't shade it in. Also, when you draw a boat, draw an arrow from that space to any adjacent space. And similarly with a village, do the same, but make it a bi-directional arrow that points both ways. These arrows will matter later when we discover how movement works. And with the cliffs, these can never be placed in harbors, which are these anchor spots, but cliffs are allowed to share a space with any other icons at any point in the game. To place cliffs, draw a line along each coastal edge of your target hex. And that's how you draw an icon, which is one of your 3 options for using your icon. Another one of the 3 options is quite similar, and that's using a Lifesaver. This is an action that is only available to the passive players. In other words, everyone but the active player. If you don't like the icon the active player has made available to you, cross off one of your available Lifesavers and you now get to use the active player's icon as well. Also make sure you angrily let them know that you don't approve of the icon that they gave you. If you've used up all of your Lifesavers, this action is no longer available to you. And the third and final option is to trade your icon in for a single point of movement. Besides drawing an icon, movement is the other main concept in this game, because your architect just doesn't want to sit around all day and be useless. You can get movement through this trade action, but you'll also get it through 2 other sources, which are tickets and infrastructure. And these can be used as a free action before or after your main action. So let me show you how movement actually works in this game, starting with tickets. An available ticket is one that has a solid circle drawn around it. You begin with some on your map, but you'll unlock others later, which you will draw a circle around to show that they're available. To use a ticket, cross it off and take its movement action. Crossing off a boot ticket allows you to move your architect 1 space in any direction to another land space. A harbor ticket can be used if you're currently on a harbor to transport you to another harbor space anywhere on the map. And a balloon ticket moves your architect exactly 2 spaces away, and you can even cross over water. That was pretty easy, right? And what could be more exciting than going on a hot air balloon ride? Now remember that main action option to trade? That just means you don't actually use the icon and instead use it like a boot or a harbor ticket and gain that movement. The other way you can move is through your infrastructure and landmark bonuses. Here's how that works. First, if you're on a tunnel, you can freely move to any other tunnel on your map anytime. You can also use the arrows you've drawn, which represent streets and canals, to freely move in the direction the arrow is pointing. Here's an example that includes all kinds of movement in it. Since I started on this tunnel, I can freely move to this tunnel. Then I'm going to use this street to move here, another street to move here. Then I'm going to trade in my icon instead of drawing it this round to get a free boot to move right here. Then I can use this canal to move here. And now that I'm on a harbor space, I can cross off this harbor ticket that I unlocked earlier from these missions to transport to this harbor. And finally, I'm going to cross off this hot air balloon to move 2 spaces down here. And with that, we've covered the main action concepts of the game. There's still a few effects and free actions to explain, but first here's a quick recap of everything up until this point. In the drafting phase, the active player selects 1 face-up icon card and chooses which icon they'll use and which icon everyone else gets. Then in the action phase, all players use their icon to either draw that icon onto their map or to trade it in for a single boot or harbor movement. Additionally, the non-active players can use a Lifesaver, if they have one, to use the same icon as the active player. And that's the bulk of it. It's pretty straightforward, and you'll catch on right away. There are 3 more free actions that you can do any number of times, either before or after using your icon, that I need to cover. These are filling in icons, unlocking and using landmark bonuses, and claiming missions. Let's start with filling in icons, which applies to villages, boats, tunnels, and forests. Filling these icons in mainly impacts final scoring and happens automatically when certain conditions have been met. A village can be filled in when it has at least 4 unique icons on adjacent hexes. For example, this village can be shaded because it has these 1, 2, 3, 4 unique icons beside it, but this one still can't, as it only has 1, 2 unique icons adjacent. A boat can be filled in when any arrow is pointing into its space. So in this situation, these 2 boats can be shaded in, but this one can't. You shade in a forest when it has another forest beside it. I guess forests just want friends. And as a bonus, when you've shaded in 3 forests, you get to gain this balloon ticket, and you gain this one once you have 5 shaded in forests. And lastly, tunnels get shaded in if they're not beside other tunnels, but this waits until the end of the game. So imagine it's the end of the game now, and I'll show you what this would look like. These tunnels aren't adjacent to other tunnels, so they get shaded in. However, since these 2 tunnels are built beside each other, neither of them will get shaded. Besides the balloon ticket bonus from shaded forests, this shading only matters for points at the end of the game, so we'll come back to that in a bit. The next free action relates to these landmark cards that were placed out during setup. The first time your architect moves into one of these landmark spaces on the board, you circle the dotted line signifying that you've unlocked it and can now use the bonus by crossing it off during a future turn. For example, if I move my architect into this space showing 4 pips, I would circle this dotted line. Since the corresponding 4 pip landmark card in this setup has this builder bonus, during any of my turns, I could cross that off to fill in any one of my village icons. And the final free action is claiming missions. Each mission card features a unique arrangement of hexes filled with check marks and X's. In order to claim a mission, you need to have completed the pattern of check marks all with one icon of your choosing somewhere on your island. However, any X's cannot contain that icon. These X's can be other icons, blank spaces, or even water as long as they're not your chosen icon. These mission patterns can be freely rotated and flipped to match. Once you've completed a mission, draw the icon you've used under that mission on your map and circle the victory point number. Important: you have to use a different icon type for each mission you complete. So for example, once you've used mountains to complete one mission, you can't use mountains for another. Also, as soon as you complete 2 missions that have a ticket between them, circle the icon and it's now available for you to use for movement. Here's an example of claiming a mission. Earlier on in the game, I completed this J mission using these 3 mountains right here to form that formation. So I drew a mountain underneath the J and circled the 6, showing that I'll get 6 points at the end of the game. Later on in the game, I could complete this K mission simply by drawing a sailboat here, showing that these 3 sailboats would complete that formation. I then draw a sailboat underneath the K, circle the 7 for the points, and since I've now surrounded this ticket with 2 completed missions, I can circle this boot and use that on a future turn for movement. Once everyone has done one icon action and any number of free actions, the action phase ends and it's now time for the administration phase. The player to the left of the active player becomes the new active player and reveals a new card from the icon deck. And with all 3 phases complete, a new round begins, with the new active player drafting one of the 2 available icon cards. Keep playing rounds like this with the active player rotating 1 space clockwise each round. Once you hit an administration phase where there aren't any cards left in the deck, the game ends immediately and it's time to see which player is the most lavish landscaper. Just before final scoring, players fill in any tunnels that aren't by other tunnels and can also claim any missions they qualify for and haven't claimed yet. Now it's time to add up those points. I'll walk you through an example of this. Add up all of your completed mission points and write them here. So in this example, I have 4 plus 4 plus 7 for 15. Filled in villages, boats, and tunnels are each worth 2 points, so write down the point total of each of these structures in its respective space and total it in this circle on the right. I have 3 filled in villages for 6 points, I have 2 filled in boats for 4 points, and I also have 2 filled in tunnels for another 4 points, which gives me a total of 14 right here. Shaded trees are also worth 2 points each, so write those points here. Every 2 cliffs provides 1 point, which you mark here, and each mountain gets 1 point per filled in icon adjacent to it. Put those points here and write the total of these 3 in this circle. I have 3 shaded trees for 6 points. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cliffs for a total of 4 points. And this mountain gives me 1 point, and this mountain gives me 1, 2, 3 points for a total of 4 points. Again, I get 14 points right there. Here you record 1 point for each unused lifesaver you have remaining. Here you mark down 2 points for each landmark you unlock. And lastly, this space gives you 1 point for each hex on your island that doesn't have any icons in it. Add these points up and write them in this circle. I have 2 lifesavers left. That gives me 2 points. I visited 1, 2, 3 landmarks for 6 more points. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 empty spaces, which brings this total up to 16 points. All players combine these 4 totals and write their final score here. So I have 15 plus 14 plus 14 plus 16 for a grand total of 59 points. And the player with the highest score wins, thus going down in history as the most picturesque Peninsula producer. Which really means your friends are probably now going to start asking you to help with their yard work. In case of a tie, all tied players share the victory. Turns out island architecture is a pretty diplomatic sport. And that's Peninsula, hopefully faster than reading the rulebook yourself. I hope this video helps you dig in and enjoy Peninsula. If so, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button and come hang out around here more often. If you have any questions about the game or rules clarifications, drop them in the comments below and you'll hear back from me right away. I've linked the Board Game Geek page for Peninsula, as well as the Karma Games website in the description below, so you can learn more about Peninsula, as well as all their other games. Thanks for joining me here on How I Roll for another Rip Up the Rules. Now get out there and design something that the Queen would actually approve of.